Now, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency wants to push ahead with the rollout of the AARTO Act. However, the Constitutional Court is yet to still rule on the legality of the system. Just to remind you what it's all about, this act will see the introduction of a demerit system where motorists will lose points from a total of 15 whenever a traffic infringement is committed. We'll get details how else it works as we speak to the AA spokesperson, Layton Beard, joining me this morning. Hello to you, Layton. So how is it that it can possibly get pushed ahead if the Constitutional Court hasn't decided? What's the view of the AA this morning?
I mean, that's obviously the $62 million question, right? If you look at the RTIA's social media accounts, they are presenting awareness campaigns and information evenings and distributing information on AARTO, ostensibly educating people on what AARTO is in places like the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. All of this is happening in the context of the fact that the Pretoria High Court in January 2022 found that the AARTO system was flawed and unconstitutional and wanted it scrapped in its entirety. That decision was then taken on review, and it's now with the Constitutional Court. It was lodged in November, and judgment from the Constitutional Court is still pending. So in our view, any motions towards providing information are nothing more than hollow at this time, because we don't know which way this is all going to go. The Constitutional Court may uphold the Pretoria High Court's ruling on the unconstitutionality of AARTO, and therefore any efforts now will obviously be futile.
Just help us understand, Layton, as well, because it's been a while. As you mentioned, January of last year, this all kind of was in the headlines. It's been a while since. What was the point of having this demerit system in place? How was this meant to, slow down carnage on our roads, stop traffic accidents, stop speeding on highways? What was the point behind this? And did you think it was ever going to work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the AA's view on this has been very strong since the very beginning of AARTO being mooted. And in 2020, we actually submitted quite a lengthy document outlining our concerns. Again, on record, let me say that the AA is in favor of a demerit system, something that is in place in countries like Australia and New Zealand, where it's been very effective. And it's been effective because the traffic law enforcement that supports it is equally effective. But in terms of AARTO itself, the purpose of AARTO, or the stated purpose of AARTO, is to deal with road crashes, with road safety, and as part of that, to introduce this demerit system where if people commit certain infringements, they not only get rand value fines, but they also get points against their driving license. And when a certain number of demerits has been achieved, obviously you lose your license, or you may need to renew your license or redo a test, or whatever the case is. And so that is the basis of AARTO. Our concern has always been that reading the AARTO legislation, it is 100% in our view geared towards revenue collection and not dealing effectively with road safety. If you look at, for instance, the Tshwane-Gauteng area where AARTO was piloted, there wasn't any significant decrease in the number of crashes or fatalities over the period that it was in place here. So our view certainly was that AARTO was not the answer in terms of dealing with road safety in South Africa, and there were many other avenues that could be followed and that still can be followed to deal more effectively with road safety in South Africa. AARTO, in our view, is not that. Obviously, this matter was taken to the Constitutional Court. The Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, AARTO, challenged the AARTO legislation, challenging specifically the constitutionality of the legislation as it refers to provincial and local authorities and their powers in terms of dealing with road fines and road safety. And the Pretoria High Court upheld their argument, and that's where we are at the moment. So it's not even a question that we're in limbo. The High Court has found that this is unconstitutional. The Constitutional Court now needs to make a ruling whether it upholds or dismisses that High Court finding. And until that happens, any attempts to roll out AARTO or to educate people on AARTO is an absolute exercise in futility. There's no point in doing it because it may just turn out that the Constitutional Court does uphold it and that any efforts you do now are not only a waste of time, but more specifically a waste of resources and money.
Well, as I ask you this, because many people would agree with you that this is about making money and not about making the roads safe in our country as well. How would you change it? Just briefly, what would you do if, for example, Layton Beard, you got a phone call from the Constitutional Court justices and said, okay, Layton Beard, you come tell us how you think it should work. You mentioned demerits can work and do work in other countries. Is there a form of it that could work, that could be constitutional, that could actually keep people safe on the roads? And let's be honest, RTIA and traffic authorities do need to make money. There is a business to run there and a service to provide. What would that look like in your view?
I think the most important thing that South Africa lacks in terms of road safety is proper traffic law enforcement. And I think that and the AA believes that any attempts to address road safety and the horrific road carnage we have in South Africa, which, and we've said this many times, in our view, is a national crisis, requires better traffic law enforcement. Now, I sound like a broken record when I say this, Gareth, but for many years now, we have suggested we need double the amount of traffic law enforcers in our country than what we currently have. And that is based on findings from the Traffic Law Enforcement Review Committee, which was a committee established by the previous ministers of transport that found exactly that we need better and more effective traffic law enforcement. And any road safety initiative is going to operate in a vacuum unless road traffic law enforcement is improved. And not only in terms of the numbers of traffic law enforcers we have, but also in terms of the resources that those people are allocated, in terms of not only their vehicles, but the equipment that they use, and the buy-in from the courts and obviously from the labs as well in terms of drunk driving. So there is that ecosystem, in our view, that requires urgent attention in terms of making it better. And until that happens, nothing in terms of road safety in South Africa is going to improve. AARTO is a mechanism, we believe, that is geared solely towards revenue collection. There needs to be a move towards identifying the issues in terms of road safety in South Africa and addressing them. And one of the most important things is ensuring that we have proper law enforcement. That's not happening in South Africa. People drive with impunity because they can get away with moving violations. And that's the situation that needs to improve.
And Layton Beard, and I appreciate your time. It's always good to have the AA spokesperson, Layton Beard, not on just to go after RTIA and say it's not a good idea, it doesn't make sense, but also offering very real alternatives to how it should be run. And Layton, I always appreciate your time in joining us here on eNCA this morning. Layton Beard, the AA spokesperson, talking about the RTIA, and they say their rollout of the AARTO Act in its current form, even though Constitutional Court has not yet made a judgment on that.